Welcome back. I'm back. You're back. Hey, we back. Welcome everyone to this episode on the Ultimate Sports TV, guys. And most importantly, welcome to this July 23rd edition of Ultimate Questions, the Q&A/mailbag segment where I take your NFL or NBA questions, people. And today I got a lot of great questions to answer on today's show that I am really excited to answer. And if you want to get your ultimate question, NFL/NBA based question on Ultimate Questions, just make sure every Monday or Sunday you go to my community post tab section to see if the prompt is up that tells you to submit your NBA or NFL Ultimate questions. Just make sure you see the correct date on the prompt. It'll come up the first thing you see on my community prompt section. Just make sure you select the right date and put your prompt under the right date that the prompt says so I can make sure I get your question on the show, people. But before I get to answering these ultimate questions, please make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the Ultimate Sports TV. Make sure you like this video for me, share this video and YouTube channel, then comment down below your reactions to all of these questions down in the comment section below. But now let's get to this week's questions. Let's get into it. I'm super excited. Let's hop. All right, this first question comes from TWT, and they ask, fair or unfair, the NFL's rule of having teams forfeit a game and also lose their game day paycheck for having a COVID outbreak by the cause of unvaccinated players. Now, yes, the NFL did have an update that this is a new rule. They're basically forcing NFL players to be vaccinated without actually telling them get vaccinated, because they're saying that, hey, if you do not get the COVID vaccine and you somehow catch COVID-19 and spread it out to all of your team, you will be at fault because your team is going to have to forfeit a game and then you will have to lose your paycheck. Now, to me, it is unfair. Now, when you're trying to get players and forcing them to get this vaccine in this way, I think it's unfair, and you have to allow players to make their own decisions. Players have made the choice to not get the vaccine because of various reasons, and you can allow them to make the choice of what they want to put in or to keep out of their body, and the NFL has to allow that to happen without having some kind of discipline for getting sick if you do not have the vaccine. While I think getting the vaccine is a benefit, it's not all that fair on this level too. You can get the coronavirus with having the vaccine. Although it can lower the risk of it being worse or you actually getting the coronavirus, if players with the vaccine get the virus, then it wouldn't be fair because they are on the same level as the guys who got sick and didn't get vaccinated. The bottom line, no matter who gets sick, you're all sick. So for the NFL to only punish the players that got sick and not had the vaccine is just unfair because they're punishing players for getting unwillingly sick. Now, the vaccine may be the best way to protect all people, but again, you have to allow players to make their own decisions and not go out and force them to put something in their body that they may necessarily not want to put in their body. So it's unfair on both of those levels, and the NFL could have just went any other way but this way. Now, could I think of any other way? Probably not right now. I may give that in another video, but when you look at this, the NFL could have just and should have just went another way without forcing players to put something in their body that they do not want to put in their body and have put their teams in jeopardy and their paycheck in jeopardy just because they've made a decision that they think is best for them and their family. All right, the next question comes from Metaltown, and they ask, will Xavier Howard be a Dolphin week 1? If not, what team or teams could we look to see him on? Now, will we see Xavien Howard on the Dolphins week 1? Now, I think the Dolphins are exercising what traits they could do with Xavien Howard, and Xavien Howard has made it clear that he is not playing a single snap on his current contract for the Dolphins or maybe for any other team. So you have to look at teams with salary cap space, but also teams that have the draft capital, but also have the players to trade for Xavien Howard. Now, this is a team that probably doesn't have the draft capital, maybe doesn't have the players, but they could use some of that draft capital that they might need to give up a player that they really, really need in that depleted secondary that looks like it needs more talent this year, and that's the Seahawks. I think they need some help in that secondary. I think they would be willing to give up some draft picks because I think they're in a win now mode, knowing that Pete Carroll doesn't have too much time left and they want to keep Russell Wilson in Seattle. So you go get some help on that defensive side of the ball by getting Xavien Howard, maybe giving up a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and maybe a player. The Arizona Cardinals are a team I would look at for a team that's suitable to trade for Xavier Howard. They're a team that I think needs some help in that secondary, and they lost Patrick Peterson. But if they went out and got Xavier Howard, that would be an upgrade over Patrick Peterson. We know they have Byron Murphy, and we know they have Malcolm Butler in that secondary as their corners. But if you add Xavier Howard to that, then you would have depth, but you'd have that true number one corner, and they have that draft capital to really trade for Xavier Howard, and I think they'd be a suitable team to go out and go get Howard in a trade. Another team, and a team I think may be a better fit than the Seahawks as far as trade suitor goes, I think that would be the Washington football team. Now, this is a defense that's probably going to be a top 5 defense this year, but when you look at their secondary, this is a secondary that still needs some secondary depth and some secondary health. If you put Xavier Howard next to William Jackson, then you have a pretty good 1-2 punch at corner, and I think they have the draft capital they need to get a Xavier Howard trade done. This is a team that looks to be all in on them going in on defense and how good their defense is going to be. And if they add Xavien Howard to this defense, I think it'll be even better. So, will Xavien Howard be on the Dolphins week 1? To me, probably not. Now, will he play for the Dolphins week 1? Absolutely not. Will he be on the Dolphins week 1? I think he'll get traded before the season starts just because some teams are going to need help at corner, because they're going to have injuries at corner, because that's just the way training camp works. And I think the Cardinals, Seahawks, and Washington football team would be valuable suitors for Xavien Howard. All right, this next question comes from DeAndre Ayton, and they ask, top 3 current players you want to see play with LeBron. Now, off the bat, I would say Chris Paul. I think him and LeBron would coexist well. Now, while they're both 2 guys that could come up the court and be point guards for you, I think you could take LeBron a little off of that and just allow him to be a bit more free. And him knowing he has Paul beside him, knowing LeBron can make plays himself, but knowing you have Chris Paul to also set up great plays for him, also just knowing you have 2 superstars next to each other, I think that would just be incredible, and they're 2 best buds that I think would really coexist well on the same team. Now, 2 other guys that I think a lot of people would say, but also are very, very intriguing. Now, one is a bit more likely really than the other, but one is Stephen Curry. I think him and LeBron, Steph Curry just as a shooter, and LeBron as the guy he is rolling down the paint inside would just be incredible. We saw them in the All-Star game. I think on a court with their star power, they could coexist really, really well. And I think the same case could be said for LeBron and Damian Lillard. They're 2 guys that I think I would want to see play together, and I think it could possibly happen. It could possibly not. Dame wants to stay in Portland, but we'll see if he gets traded or not. But I think him and LeBron would really coexist well, and I think having LeBron in a good guard, a good shooting guard next to him as a point guard would be really, really well for LeBron. And I just think, especially Stephen Curry or Damian Lillard, them as shooters, but also knowing they can feed LeBron the ball inside or outside, I think that would be really, really scary for the rest of the league. So Chris Paul, Steph Curry, and Damian Lillard are 3 current players I would want to see play with LeBron. This question comes from 2K Your Way, and they ask, who do you think are the 7 toughest NFL players to game plan for? Now, right off the bat, the guy you see on your screen right now, Lamar Jackson, he's obviously one of the toughest NFL players to game plan for. When it comes to Lamar Jackson, it really doesn't even come down to X's and O's, because no matter what you do on defense, he's going to find a way to kill you with his athleticism and as transcendent of a runner that he is. It doesn't come down to X's and O's. It just comes down to, can you tackle Lamar Jackson knowing what tricks he has up his sleeves every single second to go get to the end zone and get out of your way and avoid a tackle? Again, it does not come down to X's and O's with Lamar Jackson and his running ability. He is transcendent, and he can win you games in many ways, and we know that guy can sling the ball. Now, another guy I think is one of the toughest NFL players to game plan for is obviously Patrick Mahomes. Everything about Patrick Mahomes is tough to game plan for. He'll extend plays for you, and even if you think a play is dead, Patrick Mahomes, with his terrific ability with his arm and everything and how he reads defenses, he can still kill you and make plays, and that's really hard to game plan for because you don't know what's coming next, and you know that Patrick Mahomes always has one more trick up his sleeves. but the way he can read defenses, the way he can make these incredible throws and still make these plays when it looks like the play is done, Patrick Mahomes is incredible for that, and everything about him is really tough to game plan for. Tyreek Hill, speed kills, and that's really all I gotta say. He'll spread the defense out, and even though they spread these defenses out, Tyreek Hill is still exploding downfield. Derrick Henry, now he's a guy, he's so big, he's so fierce that you think up the middle would be the way to go with Derrick Henry, and he would just eat from the middle. Now, that is not the true way, because Derrick Henry can get yards from outside, but he can also kill you inside. So the versatility of where Derrick Henry can run is really, really scary, knowing he's a freight train and knowing he can run you over and throw you all over the field. That's just really scary. He's hard to game plan for, he's hard to tackle, and also knowing he can go anywhere on the field when the play starts as a runner. Now, 3 guys on the defense: Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. They're 3 guys that you have to shift your offensive line for to make sure they don't get to your quarterback. You have to make sure you put 2 offensive linemen on them and 1 tight end on them, just because they're so great at doing what they do, getting past the offensive linemen. And I've seen Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, and TJ Watt get past triple teams, and it's just too amazing what they do to get this amazing production but still bring these triple teams. It shifts the way you really game plan your offense, especially your offensive line, because you have to shift 3 guys to the other side of them. And it really hurts for teams that have to play the Steelers defensive line, because not only do you have to worry about TJ Watt, but you got like 3 other guys in Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, and now Melvin Ingram that you really have to worry about. Now, Julio Jones and Alvin Kamara are guys that I think are also toughest to game plan for. Julio Jones is just a well-rounded player, and he's just really hard to guard, and he can make plays that really no other players could make. But Alvin Kamara, him is probably the most versatile player in the NFL, is really scary. We know at him as a runner, he's one of the most pure runners in the NFL. We know he's an incredible guy catching the ball, but really just as a scoring machine, that's really hard to game plan for, because he'll run all over the field but still have a score and something up his sleeve. So knowing him as a threat both ways, it's just really scary, because he'll find ways around your defense. But those are the 7 or 8 toughest NFL players for me to game plan for. All right, this last question comes from Showtime Rams, and they ask, on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the worst, how bad is this Cam Akers season-ending injury for my Rams? Now, on a scale from 1 to 5, I think from it being best to worst, I think I would give it probably maybe a 3 or a 4. Now, when you look at this situation and look at what offense the Rams run, Cam Akers was going to be a really, really big part to this offense. And we'll see this season that they will miss Cam Akers, just because he's such a transcendent running back that can do so much for your offense. He's a workhorse, and he has so much talent, and this was supposed to be his breakout season. But when I was looking at the Rams roster this offseason, I said this Rams team is going to be able to keep offenses off the field. They're going to have a great passing attack that can duel with other great passing attacks, and they're going to have a great defense. Well, one of those goes now, and that's having a run game that'll keep other teams off the field for a long period of time. Cam Akers was going to explode, and now you don't have that dude as a running back on your roster right now to keep great offenses off the field. Now, will it plummet the Rams to not even being a Super Bowl or playoff contender? No, because I think their passing attack and their coach and their defense is that good. But their running game will not keep all these great offenses off the field, which I thought put them over the top of so many teams when we had Cam Akers on paper on their roster this offseason. So when it comes to how bad it is, I think it's a 4, because it's going to have so many effects on how they run their offense and how they keep these good offenses off the field. But again, they have the coach as a great play caller in Sean McVay, and they have the pass game, which I think is going to rival so many other pass games and do really, really well. And then they have the defense that I think is going to be top 5 once again in 2021, people. But this has been Ultimate Questions. This has been the July 23rd edition. Remember, go to my community post tab section every Sunday or Monday to put your ultimate question in. Just make sure on the prompt it says the correct date so I can make sure I get your ultimate question for the correct date, people. But this has been Ultimate Questions for July 23rd, people. Other than that, this is Malik Hicks, aka the Ranker of the Ultimate Sports TV, signing off. Peace out, and I'll see you on my next one.